Hi, I'm Christina Reeves, and I am a landscape architect here at Gasper Landscapes. And I am out on a job site today with Christian and Romero, and we are going to show you how easy it is to install a hose bib drip irrigation system at your house. One of the factors to consider when you are installing your hose bib drip irrigation system is the location of your hose bib that you're going to use to supply the water to the system. It's important that the hose bib be in close proximity to the beds you're going to be watering, and that there is no barriers between the hose bib itself and the planting bed to be irrigated. So we've already planted our plants. Everything is in the ground and ready for mulch and ready for our irrigation system. When you have the opportunity with new hardscape, it's really important and it saves a lot of headache in the long run if you think ahead and place conduit underneath any hardscapes and even between lawn areas of beds that you're going to be irrigating. So here, Christian has thought ahead, and we have put 1.5-inch hard pipe between our beds, and we are using those conduits to run both the irrigation tubing as well as lines for our low voltage lines. We also use this conduit for landscape lighting between beds. Right now you see 2 pipes in the conduit. One is being used for a fish for the low voltage wiring, and the other will be connected to our irrigation lines via a quick connect. We advise that you put your tubing in conduit when you're running it through lawn areas, as Romero is here. It helps because it prevents people from accidentally splicing the line or cutting the line with a shovel. And it's fairly easy to do. Here you can see Ramirez is using a flat edge shovel to just create a shallow trench, and is going to be putting that conduit. It doesn't really have to be very deep into that conduit, and running it protected underneath the walkway through the lawn to the nearest planting bed. Here is the piping that we're going to be using for the drip irrigation, and we are using both solid pipe, which we use to run between beds and underneath hardscapes, and a perforated pipe, which has a hole every 12 inches, and that is what we run around each of the base of each of the plants. We also have 2 of the other components of the system, the quick connectors for the tubing, as well as sod pins that we're going to use to anchor the tubing down underneath the ground. All right, so Christian is ready to start making some connections. He's simply doing that by cutting the tubing, making a clean cut on the tube with his box cutter. You could also use a knife. He's then going to insert each end of the cleanly cut pipe into the connector piece, and he pushes that in as far as it will go, but as far as basically that it won't pull out. And you can see that he is going to check each of those connections by pulling against it on the pipe to make sure that it is secure. You do not need any solvents or glue or anything to basically seal those connections of those pipes. Here we see Christian pinning down the tubing in the bed, and he is using a landscape pin or a sod staple to anchor that tubing down, simply straddling the pipe with the pin, and then either pushing it in if the ground allows, or using a soft mallet to hammer that pin down tightly against the pipe. I mean, not so tightly enough that you're constricting the water flow, but tightly enough that it's going to keep that pipe close to the ground. And we're using a pin every 12 to 18 inches, and that helps keep that pipe securely to the ground and not popping up and becoming visible in the mulch later afterwards. You can run up to 300 linear feet of tubing per timer setup with your hose bib drip irrigation system. But we have found that it is really important to make sure that the system is a continuous loop and that there are no dead ends in the pipe. And so we find the best way to do that is to loop each bed back into itself with a T connector, as you see how Christian has done it here. When you're running the pipe, it's important to get close to each plant that you're looking to irrigate, but you don't really want to be right on top of the plant's crowns. That could really cause too much water in the area around the crown and cause rot and really the plant to be overwatered. So a lot of times we find just using a simple sort of S-shaped configuration running near and around the bases of the plants is sufficient. Often a larger plant such as a shrub or a tree, we will create a loop around that plant so that since it is a bigger plant, it will get a little bit more water. And we also take consideration, try to know your plants and how much water each plant wants. So if it is a plant that likes it really dry, probably being on the lesser side of less pipe is a good thing. And if it's a plant that loves to be wet, loves a lot of water, then you might think about looping that plant or giving that plant a little bit of an extra run. Christian is now, the first step in installing the timer setup is to apply and wrap a Teflon tape around the threads of the hose bib. This helps prevent any leaking and really creates a tight fit of the Y splitter to the hose bib. After he's wrapped that Teflon around there a few times, he's going to install the Y splitter. And the Y splitter is great because it allows us one branch to run our timer and our irrigation system, and it leaves the other branch free so that you could put a hose on and still use your hose bib while leaving your drip irrigation system intact. Onto the Y splitter, Christian is going to screw the digital timer that we are using. You should make sure that your timer has batteries in it, and it's going to just attach right onto your Y splitter. And your timer is the mind of your hose bib irrigation system. Next, you can see Christian installing the pressure regulator, and the pressure regulator is what is going to give you that nice even flow across the entire length of your tubing. You are going to connect your main line of your irrigation system to the pressure regulator simply by making a clean cup on that pipe and inserting the length of the tubing into the pressure regulator, and then just giving it a slight tug to make sure that you have a secure and tight connection. It's really important that you remember that these timers cannot stay out in freezing weather. So as soon as you get your first frost warning, it's important to take those timers in at the end of the year, and then you can put them back on in the spring after chance of frost has passed. Okay, so we are checking our system now. We're looking for wet spots. We're making sure that all of the plants are getting sufficient amount of water. And you can see that the water is coming out of our holes that are equally spaced. And we are just going to check that we have good, even coverage and that our system is tight and working as we intended to. Now we're all done, finished testing our system. We're happy with our coverage. We're happy with the flow, and we're ready to mulch. So Romero is going to go ahead and mulch the beds for us. Sometimes you can see wet spots in the mulch where the system is running, but that is not always the case, especially on really hot days. So do not rely on seeing wet spots in the mulch to test that your system is getting enough water. You are going to need to do a little bit of monitoring over the next couple of weeks and days to sort of just figure out how much water your plants do need. And the best way to do that is with your finger. Here we are, all finished. Our new landscape beds are properly mulched and, more importantly, properly irrigated with our new hose bib drip irrigation system. So thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to stop in and take a look at our library of other helpful videos on our website, gasper.net. There are a couple on how to set your agrifem timer, as well as how to check that your plants are getting enough water.